Peace. What's good? How y'all doing? This is ZaZa Ali. Today is Saturday, August the 12th, 2019. I pray that this message reaches you all in the best of health, spirit, and mind. Turn myself a little bit so I can see. I have two monitors here, so I want to be able to go back and forth between the both of them. I am doing well. This is the carryover from yesterday's live video. My power went out and then it came right back on, but the YouTube wouldn't let me back on. I think it was probably processing the other video. So this is the continuum. And actually, I'm glad it happened because I actually added a couple of other things that I want to talk about. This is what I'm going to be doing every Friday. These videos will be live. However, I will not be engaging the chat room. I will be doing live news presentation type videos in order to talk about global and local news as well as things that are trending in pop culture. So today we're going to talk about genetically modified salmon. We're going to talk about Mauna Kea. I hope I'm saying that right. Maybe Mauna Kea. And the controversy down in Hawaii with this billion-dollar telescope that they want to create there. We're going to talk about extreme weather. People are talking about the fact that July was the hottest month ever in the history of the planet Earth. We're going to talk briefly about Jeffrey Epstein, his suicide, and what the media is doing now to exasperate the character assassination in order to get people moving away from thinking about Donald Trump and Bill Clinton's connection to this dude and simply, writing him off as a pedophile, psychopath type thing. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the NFL Jay-Z thing. Initially, I was going to talk about the situation with Melania Trump, and I might actually still chime in on that. But I want to keep this video below an hour, and I want to have all of my Friday videos below an hour. So depending on my time, that will dictate whether or not I talk about that. But I'm going to go pretty quickly because I have a lot of stuff that I want to cover, and I want to make sure that I'm able to give you guys a full, well-rounded presentation so you can know what to expect every Friday when I touch on these subjects. Real quick, I'm doing a raw fast right now. Today is day one. All smoothies, all salad, all fruit today, tomorrow, and Monday. So if you guys want to join me, feel free. You can also join my Alchemy Cipher group on Facebook, which is a subscription-based group, and I talk, directly and personally with the members there about fasting as well as a lot of other things. That's where all of my content, my 248 videos that I've removed from YouTube, I'll be funneling all of that content to my private Facebook group, so you can get information in the Linktree link in the description. But I'm doing a raw fast, all fruit, all smoothies, all salad for at least 3 days, and then I may carry that over and do a couple of days of no food. We'll see how I feel. And tea only. And just so you guys know, if you have something that you want to work towards, like you want to get, you got a big job interview, or, you have a big project coming up, or something that you need to go well and to do well, I suggest you do a fast because it limits the body density. It gives your chi or your life force a lighter energy, which means that the signal that you emit as an electromagnetic being, as an electrical being, is stronger. There's a lot of science behind that, and I can, make a lot more sense. If you want more information about that, like I said, join my private Facebook group, Alchemy Cipher, and we're going to be talking about that type of stuff all the time. So you're welcome to join me if you're interested. Make sure that your energy and your mindset is positive and going into the fast, that you are thinking and focused on your intentions, opposed to going with the flow of the emotion of it, because you will have emotional swings. When you get hungry, you start having withdrawals depending on the way that you've been eating. So there is a certain pattern and a rhythm and a way to do fasting where it will be extremely mentally and spiritually beneficial. Like I said, join Alchemy Cipher if you want to get more more information about that. And you want to, like I said, have a more personal one-on-one interaction with me as well as the members in the group. Again, I'm going to go fast here because I have a lot of stuff to talk about. I'll be mentioning my first book multiple times as we talk about extreme weather as well as genetically modified food. The scientific intervention in our affairs. You can also get this on my website. It's all available in the link below. chemtrails, vaccinations, geoengineering, HARP, organ trafficking, Ebola, crack cocaine, a lot of the things, the scientific war that has been waged on all people, but particularly melanated people around the world, that is covered in this book. My second book, Plagues of Dysfunction, deals specifically with Black people in America and, you know, our issues, dysfunctions, so to speak, particularly between the male-female dichotomy, how we think, how we act, and how we treat one another. And in my workbook, The Science of Self, Volume 1, Mind, this covers frequency, energy, vibration, consciousness, and just really, it's like an introduction to the science of spirituality from my perspective. It's a workbook. It's 79 pages. It's all colors, and I'm extremely proud of it. You can get access to purchase that in an ebook version or in a physical copy on my website, Linktree below, and you can get access to all of that. Okay? So let's get started first with the topic of genetically modified salmon. I'm going to play a video clip real quick, and then we will come right back on the other end. Testing, testing. Okay, my sound went out. Let me see. Testing, testing. Okay, there we go. Testing, testing. Okay, let me do that again. I'm figuring it out, you guys. And I'm not doing this live, so I have this. Just work with me. Let me try this again.
Megan Thompson has more.
Okay, hang on. Here we go.
Tonight we launch a PBS NewsHour weekend special series, The Future of Food. Over the coming months, we'll focus on stories around the world where efforts to fight food scarcity and waste are ongoing. Here's author Mark Bittman to introduce our first story in the series on the debate over genetically modified salmon.
Fish is an important protein source for many people around the world, and we're eating more of it than ever before. And with 1/3 of the world's stocks overfished, aquaculture has taken off, tripling production in the last 20 years. Yet to date, fish farming has struggled with environmental problems just like land-based farming has. One small company is producing a genetically engineered salmon it says could help solve some of these problems and help meet the world's demand. Others say it's a dangerous step in the wrong direction. Megan Thompson has more. This report is supported in partnership with the Pulitzer Center.
If you fly to the tiny province of Prince Edward Island on Canada's eastern coast, then drive about an hour east out of the capital city, you'll finally come to a small unmarked building guarded by a chain-link fence. There's nothing special about it outside, but inside is another story. These tanks contain the only genetically engineered animal in the world that's been deemed safe to eat: Atlantic salmon modified to grow faster.
Using new technology is an intelligent way to meet the the global food security needs of the future.
Ron Stodish is Chief Technology Officer of AquaBounty, the company producing the genetically engineered, or GE, salmon.
We're going to run out of land and run out of water to do what we're continuing to do unless we find a better way to do it.
They know it's feeding time. Yeah, they're pretty happy.
It's a relatively small operation making big waves. 50 employees at 3 facilities in Canada and the U.S., breeding, hatching, and growing the salmon, trademarked AquaAdvantage. They hope to have it on the American market next year. It will be the final step in a long process that began in another part of Canada.
The story of genetically engineered salmon began nearly 3 decades ago here in Newfoundland, Canada, at Memorial University's Ocean Sciences Centre, one of the world's leading marine research labs.
In the 1980s, physiologist Garth Fletcher and his colleagues started reading about the first work being done to create a genetically modified mouse.
We said, well, if they can do that in mice, maybe we can do that in fish.
Fletcher came up with the idea of altering Atlantic salmon DNA to get the fish to grow more quickly.
Because behind every production system there's an accountant that says, are we making any money? Can we produce the fish faster? Can we turn the inventory over type idea?
A salmon's growth hormones are more active during certain times of the year. Fletcher thought, what if he could get the hormones to stay active all the time? He took DNA from a fish called an ocean pout, which produces a special protein all year long that helps it survive in frigid waters. Fletcher took the DNA that keeps those proteins turned on and running and connected it to a salmon growth hormone gene, which had the effect of keeping the growth hormone on.
Now it's free to run summer and winter if you wish, all year round.
Fletcher inserted the gene into his salmon eggs and waited to see what would happen.
So in the spring of 1990, we saw some big ones. So we said, ooh, maybe it's that.
So you could see that these fish were bigger.
Yeah, much bigger than the other ones.
As scientists, seeing that what you're doing is working, what does that feel like?
Well, we were just amazed, right?
Fletcher patented his technology and started a company which eventually became AquaBounty. His invention is still the center of its work. A genetically engineered salmon that grows twice as fast as regular salmon, while actually consuming less feed. The difference is significant. These fish are both about 2 years old.
It's really hard to believe that these salmon are the same age, and there's such a huge size difference between the two of them.
This fish is 5 kilos, ready for market. That fish is a long ways from market.
In the United States, the majority of the salmon consumed is Atlantic salmon, but almost all of it is imported from ocean farms in Norway, Chile, and Canada. That's because in the U.S., wild Atlantic salmon is endangered, so catching it is illegal. Ocean farming is only permitted in a few places, and until recently, there wasn't much interest in expensive land-based production like AquaBounty's.
If you have a fish that grows a little faster, such as an AquaAdvantage that reaches market weight in half the time, you can produce those fish almost anywhere because you can grow them in a land-based aquaculture facility closer to consumers, so you can reduce the transportation costs, you can reduce the carbon footprint associated with transportation. So this opens up a whole new opportunity for global salmon production.
Ron Stodish talks of producing Atlantic salmon in places it's never been done before, like Indiana, where AquaBounty has set up its first American facility.
This is a hot smoked salmon preparation from a roughly 5 kilo AquaAdvantage salmon.
He gave me a taste of the product.
It's delicious.
It's very good.
I mean, I think some people might think that this would taste somehow different than non-genetically modified salmon, but it tastes exactly the same.
It's exactly the same.
All right, so there you see. Let me bring me back up. That's a PBS special, and this video is actually 13 minutes, so if you guys want to look this up, I'll give you the name of it. It's called Future of Food. This genetically engineered salmon may hit the U.S. markets as early as 2020, and again, this is from PBS NewsHour, so you can go right to their website to find this. Just Google, Future of Food and PBS NewsHour. So basically what they're talking about, and if you don't know, there is a plethora of genetically modified food already available to us and around the world. Certain countries have actually rejected and banned genetically modified food. I talk about the actual science of what it means to genetically engineer a product. It's basically cloned food or cloned fish. They take the genetic markers and the genetic makeup of salmon or of, let's say a lime or a lemon, and they create it in a petri dish. And then once they have the blueprint, so to speak, they just recreate it over and over. Now, the problem is that whatever is genetically modified cannot reproduce itself, meaning salmon have babies to continue to have salmon. Well, genetically modified salmon do not reproduce themselves. Neither do genetically modified oranges, lemons, limes. This is why they don't have seeds in them. So I remember Dr. Harriet Washington in her book, Medical Apartheid. She said that any substantial or any real scientific movement that's worth its salt has to have at least a 10-year trial period where scientists and medical scientists are able to observe and study the effect on, human anatomy, human, thinking, human psychology, etc. Just, how it affects us in all these different ways. There has to be a 10-year period in order for there to be a scientific study to see what the, positive versus negative, potential outcomes could be. There have been no significant trial studies on genetically modified food. The FDA and the scientists of death, including Monsanto, are basically winging it at this point. And I believe that the goal is to alter the DNA structure of human beings and also to capitalize and totally control the market of how food is produced, and then also to impose infertility in human beings. And if you guys know anything about, population control, infertility is the #1 goal and agenda of these scientists of death. And then as you heard the guy talk about in the video, the scientist, that this is about money. He said that, so that we don't run out of land or water. The planet Earth is so abundant in food and in natural resources that it is impossible for us to run out of land and water unless we continue at the pace that we're continuing on, which is raping the land and not pouring anything back into it and moving purely out of a capitalistic economic make money perspective. So the spiritual aspect of this, right, the higher aspect of this when it comes to what's happening and why you shouldn't be afraid, is that our consciousness and our planet is forcing us to go back into a plant-based diet, to focus more on how we eat, to focus more on studying our food, to focus more on growing food, and to being more aware of how food actually affects our body. So you don't need to be afraid, but you do need to be mindful of, this science, this technology, not just because of what you eat, but because as a people and as human beings, we should know the way that our societies and our civilization, especially our food and our water, the way that it's actually moving. So again, like I said, you can purchase my book, The Scientific Intervention in Our Affairs, to get more information about that. And also, if you purchase salmon in the stores, I recommend that you buy wild caught salmon opposed to farmed salmon. There are a lot of other health issues that come with farmed salmon. For the sake of time, I won't get into that. Maybe we'll talk about that another time. But you definitely want to be mindful about the type of fish that you intake, how much you intake it, and what's available on the market, what's best and what's not so good. So genetically modified salmon, they say it may hit the markets as early as 2020. I'd be willing to bet that it's already on the market, just because I know how these people operate and how they work. So just be mindful. And I challenge, just to close this out while we're heading towards an election year, I challenge all Black politicians. I challenge all Black commentary, people who are on CNN and MSNBC, our go-to figures, so to speak, that are engulfed and immersed in the political spectrum, right? Who get paid, who get elected, who are supposed to represent us and our well-being. I challenge all of you to talk about genetically modified food, to talk about how the impact that it could have, the potential impact that it could have, the pros and the cons. Start talking about companies like Monsanto, who have been directly connected to and tied to high cancer rates, as well as a bunch of other physical ailments that are polluting our waters, that are polluting our air, and that are directly tied to the breakdown of the physical body. All right, so genetically modified salmon, and challenge your, if you are one of those people that are into politics, that always talk about voting, that are focused on that particular paradigm, then it is also incumbent upon you, because, a lot of people will beat you over the head for not voting or for speaking out against voting. Okay, well, if you champion that cause, then it is incumbent upon you to hold the people that you represent in political office, that you're voting for, that you're campaigning for. It is incumbent upon you to bring this conversation to the forefront, to hold these people accountable, and for you to be intelligent so that you can teach people in the process of getting them to try or to strive for voting. I'll close with this on this topic. We're living in a genetically engineered world. They've genetically modified trees. There are now fake trees. If you go to Dubai, I haven't been to Dubai, but I've seen the pictures of them and read articles about this. If you look in certain places where they have big shopping malls and stuff, they're putting up these fake trees. You can tell, I can tell a real tree from a real palm tree from a fake palm tree, because I grew up in California. I know what they're supposed to look like. But even beyond the science of the genetically modified food, we are living in a world that the consciousness is becoming genetically modified. And nowhere, like perfect example, this situation with this Jay-Z NFL thing, which I'm going to talk about last, just goes to show me how people don't even have their minds anymore. People aren't really even thinking anymore. They're totally running off of a script. The people who I've encountered when I voice my opinion online about this subject, when they respond to me, they're angry, they're upset, they're disrespectful. They are, and basically reiterating talking points that I'm hearing multiple people actually talk about. So they're basically saying what the people who they agree with, they're repeating this over and over without being able to express themselves of their own mind and fruition. So the consciousness is being modified. Artificial intelligence has a lot to do with this. I'll talk about that at another time. But so when we talk about GMOs, genetically modified food, understand this goes beyond. If your food is genetically modified, it is directly connected to genetically modifying human consciousness, emotions, etc. All right, so next we're going to talk about, let me close this screen out and bring up my next video. I want to talk about Hawaii's Moana Kai. I hope I'm saying that right, because I'm not really seeing a lot of people in America, and particularly our culture, talking about this. And, it's unfortunate because a lot of people around the world actually adhere to Black culture, at least from a pop culture, our music, the way we dress and whatnot. But we don't really share in the experience of the world. And one of the things that I really want to emphasize as a lover of nature and as a respecter of this planet is how out of touch and out of tune Black people, particularly in America and in the African diaspora. And I recognize that, globally we're a little bit more in tune as far as South America and Africa, but how out of touch and out of tune we are as a people when it comes to nature. If we were more balanced and had a more fond connection with nature and with the land, there's no way that we could be scratching each other's eyes out over, trending topics that really don't even affect our daily lives. So I wanted to highlight this situation in Hawaii and the people there, that the backlash and the people there responding to what's happening with them trying to build this billion-dollar telescope. So check out this clip and I will be right back.
Miles O'Brien returns to a Hawaiian mountaintop for a second report on astronomers' efforts to build a cutting-edge telescope there, and the controversy that's raised with native Hawaiians who regard the area as sacred. It's part of our weekly Leading Edge series.
This is where the heavens meet the earth, and the sacred meets the scientific. They stand in opposition here, amid a long fight to stop construction of the giant 30-meter telescope. And yet both worlds are also closely aligned with the stars.
Mauna Kea is actually our origin place.
Kealoha Pashoda took us to her family's altar, or lele. one of hundreds of native Hawaiian stone shrines that dot the mountain.
We still bring offering here. These are remnants of offering from people from around the world, actually.
Her Polynesian ancestors were the first navigators, using the stars to find their way here in small boats more than 1,000 years ago, celebrated in the latest Disney movie, Moana.
At night we name every star, we know where we are, we know who...
The star knowledge of our people has helped the Polynesian people circumnavigate the globe, millennia before, most of the discoverers were doing it.
But the summit of this mountain is also arguably the best place on Earth for astronomy, home to 13 world-class observatories.
We're in the Keck 1 dome, and what we're looking at here is the back of the Keck telescope.
Mark Cassis is a support astronomer at the W.M. Keck Observatory. Its twin 10-meter-wide mirrors are two of the largest and most productive telescopes in the world.
This is 300 tons moving and keeping things to an accuracy of a few nanometers.
There are 36 separate hexagons tightly arrayed to make a primary mirror that is much larger than can be created with a single piece of glass. It is this breakthrough innovation that made possible telescopes this powerful and precise.
Sometimes I get a little teary-eyed when I'm talking with other people because I really like the place and excited about sharing it. For me, it's a testament to humans' curiosity about the universe and the world in which we live in.
It was the tug of science that first pulled Kealoha Peixoto to the summit of Mauna Kea. A physics major and lover of astronomy, she worked for 12 years as a technician at this observatory.
When I began to see the landscape being taken over, and that's when I realized, whoa, this is no longer man operating in a natural landscape. It's man dominating the natural landscape. And that's where it started to shift for me personally, is when I started to say, hey, we're all, astronomy is great and all, but, what about all these other things?
All right, so let me bring myself back up here. I want to say love and respect to the people in Hawaii, as well as, Damian Marley was there recently. The Rock was there recently. He's originally from Hawaii. I love The Rock. And all of the people who are involved there, there's a video of an elder, a beautiful woman, who is basically laying her face to the ground. And I think she might have even been arrested. Just a real powerful scene. And, I just wanted to kind of show this and talk about this to, number one, send my love and my positive energy to the people there in support, but then also to juxtapose, what indigenous cultures around the world are actually doing opposed to, maybe what some of us in America are doing and what we actually focus on. One thing that she said in the video, and I have to say this, she said that Polynesians were the first navigators 1,000 years ago. That's actually not accurate. And it's not to, compare or contrast Polynesians with Africans because the original Polynesian people were very brown-skinned people. So we're talking about tribes, global tribes. All of those people were black, in my opinion. They were all the original indigenous people. So I do not compare or contrast any of them. I've studied ancient, or indigenous Hawaiian history. Laula Okalani is one of the women, the last queen in Hawaii, and her family, and they were all dark-skinned people. So, when we say Polynesian, we have this idea of what these people look like. But when you go back and search history, these were all just subsets and tribes of global people that were actually very dark-skinned, brown and black people. But Polynesians were not the first to navigate the planet. It was actually Africans, and there is a plethora of information as far as history is concerned to verify that. And it doesn't, take anything away from the Polynesians. It's not a compare or contrast thing. It's just I'm a student of history, and we have to be factual when we talk about this stuff. And she probably doesn't even know that. Most people don't know that because that's what I learned when I was in school. They also reiterated that when I was in college. I had many, sessions with my professors where they would say things like this, and I would bring information in order to, verify what the actual truth was. So I just wanted to say that. But you notice that she talked about the alignment of that mountain with the stars, as well as, the energy and the connection that the people have to the land there. And she said that the stars for a long time were the alignment with the stars is how the people actually aligned the knowledge of the stars, is how the people actually aligned with a cosmological kind of energy. It's very powerful when you really understand as human beings the microcosm and the macrocosm of the planet, as well as, the solar system and whatnot. We're all connected. So again, I just want to send love and inform people about what's happening there to the people in Hawaii. And Moana Kai, I hope I'm saying that right. We support you and we love you and we are with you. Next thing, there is an article, multiple articles, a news story pretty much, that is going around. July was Earth's hottest month since records began, with the globe missing 1 million square miles of sea ice. And it says 2019 will be a top 4 warmest year. And let me see what the specific quote is. Okay. If you guys can hear the sound in the background, just so you know, I'm playing 639 hertz frequency based sound in order to kind of keep myself on a certain frequency, and also hopefully it will reverberate with you wherever you're listening from. But it says July brought extreme heat to Europe and massive wildfires to the Arctic, including Alaska, Siberia, and even Greenland, as well as a record and sudden melt event to the Greenland ice sheet. During the European heat wave in late July, Sweden set a record for the warmest temperature observed in that country north of the Arctic Circle. NOAA reported with a maximum temperature of 94 degrees. At the end of the month, both Arctic sea ice and Antarctic sea ice were at their lowest levels on record for the month, missing a total of 1 million square miles of ice, according to NOAA. If this were a country, it would be the 10th largest nation worldwide. Now, I gotta say something about this, and let me just bring my camera back up so you guys see me. As I talk about in my book, The Scientific Intervention in Our Affairs, this is not conspiracy theory. This is not me trying to run with some, wild story about government, or this is an actual fact. This is something that I've been studying and researching for more than 10 years now. The United States government and European governments have been continuously, at least for the last 40 years, manipulating our weather. They are spraying trillions of tons of metal particulates into our upper atmosphere, which is what chemtrails is. And just in case you don't know what chemtrails looks like, let me show you. This is happening over our heads every day, and people are so busy being preoccupied with Jay-Z and the NFL that they have absolutely no clue about what's happening on our planet. Turn this down. So this is a video clip from YouTube showing a plane and how, understanding the difference between contrails and chemtrails. Contrails dissipate, they disappear in the sky after a few minutes. Chemtrails do not, they billow out and they become, let me turn this down so make sure you guys can hear me. Chemtrails do not dissipate, they billow out and they become wide, stretching, long, cloud-looking formations that eventually blanket the sky, cover the sky, and prohibit us from seeing, how the sun, so to speak. They do it during time periods when we have full moon in order to blanket the impact that the moon has on our planet. They do it to create rain. They do it to create thunderstorms. They do it to alter the weather. And again, this is a part of genetically engineering consciousness because chemtrails and these nanoparticulates that they're spraying in the upper atmosphere, which have barium, strontium, and aluminum in them, actually alter frequencies. They alter human consciousness, as well as they alter our water, our food, etc. So again, let me just get back to the point here because I don't want to get too far into the science. You see this dark line that's preceding that? How can we explain that? How can you possibly explain that line there? If you see my marker, how does the space come before the actual cloud? And so this was what the way the clouds look. There used to only be a specific number of clouds. They have, the weather systems have now, and the moderators. If you see that rainbow there, that is the metal particulates in the sky actually bouncing back the sun. So, this is not normal. The sun is bouncing off of those metal particulates and shining back out into the atmosphere. Now, one of the things that they said chemtrails was for, if you go back and research this stuff, because of global warming, they want to basically create a buffer on the planet so that they can block the sun back into space. That's what this is that you're actually seeing. So when they talk about global warming and when they use, the heating, the elevated levels of heat on the planet, it's true in one sense because, yes, these places, this is not normal. This is not normal. These places are, becoming hotter. The planet is becoming hotter, but also the planet is getting less and less sunshine. So what's happened is they have basically messed up our weather patterns and our weather situations to such an extreme. They've been doing this for 40 years now. And I'm going to put up more content about this, or at least clips of content. My main content will be on my Alchemy Cipher page. But just to kind of, prove the science, because I can prove this backwards and forward. I've studied enough people who are real scientists to know that this is happening. So when we talk about extreme weather in these hot months, it's what's happening with how they're tampering with our upper atmosphere. It's only, right that eventually we have these extreme temperatures, whether this is the intention of the people who are responsible for this science or not. It is so far, it has done, so much damage to the upper atmosphere of our planet that I think now some of this stuff might be on autopilot and some of it actually might be contrived. But so for anybody, I see the comments online when we talk about this stuff and they automatically talk about global warming. Anybody who's talking about global warming, who is not talking about geoengineering, HARP, and chemtrails is not properly informed. And again, I challenge all Black politicians, all Black, people who are on CNN, MSNBC, talking heads, political pundits. If you are not talking about this, are you really representing what's in the best interest of our people and all people? And again, if you want more information on that, you can purchase my book, The Scientific Intervention in Our Affairs. I have been talking about this for 10 years minimum. I wrote a book 6 years ago before it was popular, before it started trending. This is something that I've been researching for a long time, and it's important for us to be informed about what's actually happening on our planet. Again, showing much adoration and respect for the people in Hawaii, knowing what's happening on the planet so that we can understand how it's going to affect the human dichotomy, mindset, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, etc. So let me close these out. So this Jeffrey Epstein situation, obviously, when I heard about the suicide, I immediately knew because I understand how these people get down. And let me just go back real quick. If you think that the United States government or these people in high positions are not willing to take out somebody who has extensive information on how sleazy and how grimy and how nasty and how perverted they are, all of them, the people who we are looking at, in the Senate and the House of Representatives, these people that we actually think are going to go to bat for us, Jeffrey Epstein is not an anomaly. If you think for 1 minute that these people are not capable of killing somebody that withholds government secrets or information about powerful people, you need to read this book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. I always refer to this book. I have there was a book by, what's her name? Ilana Friedland. What's the name of that book? Oh, I can't think of it. I have like 3 other books that are in this same vein, but this particular book, he talks about jackals and how the United States government has hitmen that go around the world that basically make global leaders an offer that they can't refuse. And if they do refuse, they will kill them and make it look like an accident and make it look like a suicide, make it look like a plane crash, etc., etc. So check that book out if this is too much for you to comprehend. But the Daily Mail reported, and obviously we know that they're saying that this dude committed suicide. And now the autopsy is saying that his neck looked weird. It looks like there could have been foul play. All of that is a mind game that they play with people. They give you enough information to make you think that they're going to actually release truth or give you the real story. And then eventually they pull it back. This is how these people play. So I just want you guys to recognize, this article came out on the Daily Mail. Hang on, I have something popping up on my backup drive. It's downloading on my computer right now. Hang on. FBI investigators zero in on Jeffrey Epstein's 8,000-acre Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, where the pedophile planned to seed the human race with his DNA by impregnating women. In addition to private island and mansions in New York and Palm Beach, Epstein owned a New Mexico ranch. He owned a New Mexico ranch. He purchased the secluded ranch from New Mexico's then governor Bruce King in 1993. Accuser Virginia Roberts says she was brought to the ranch as an underage teen and sexually abused. Another accuser says her 15-year-old sister was flown to the ranch and molested. Epstein was reportedly interested, in turning the ranch into a human breeding farm to seed the human race, and tried to insinuate himself into New Mexico's scientific circles, that are a legacy of the Manhattan Project. So put a pin in that for a second. And then there's another article about this pedophile island, right? This island that he owned. And this article is not really even saying anything. It's talking about the vast scope of, this place. And he's got this weird temple here. And they think that this place there was something weird or demonic, satanic going on there. He probably took his victims there. And that's not far-fetched at all. There you see another image of it. It looks like it has Kemetic symbolism, especially the building. These people are devil worshippers, Satan worshippers. This is what they do. Now, to try to pinpoint, again, making him look like he's this anomaly, this psychopath. No, this is what these white men particularly, but not just white men, anybody who wants to reach a certain level of success in this world, and that wants to go through their channels with fame and notoriety, etc. This is the game that they play. And if you know anything about American history and pop culture, then you know that pedophilia goes hand in hand, with this Me Too movement going on. It's interesting with all of the celebrities, women in particular, that came forward with stories about, Weinstein and all these other weirdos that, were raping and molesting and treating them wrong. But how come none of them are talking about the fact that these directors and producers and these big wigs in Hollywood actually continuously molest boys in particular? And that goes back to Greco and Roman culture. But and another thing, a lot of the men and the boys who were slaves in America, Africans who were brought here, were actually raped by white men. And that's where a lot of the molestation and pedophilia in our community actually stems back to. But focusing on Jeffrey Epstein right now, they are demonizing him in the media so that people pay less attention to the, Bill Clinton and the Donald Trump connection to him, and just basically, see him in their mind as, obviously he's dead and people have short attention spans, but this guy was some weirdo. He was some pedophile. And he was an anomaly. No, he was not. There are men who are just like him that are seated and rooted in the American Congress, in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, and all of the people who make the big, power moves in American politics and on a political and economic scale. Most of them are involved in this in some capacity or another. And this is why, while we, have a foot in and a focus or emphasis on the political arena, you cannot underestimate what is actually happening behind the scenes. And some of these people are the people that you're looking to in order to make change in your communities and in this country, which is ludicrous. So they are destroying his character, destroying his legacy, destroying everything about him, so that people will focus less on who was actually tied to him, and more so on him being this real weirdo. Especially this thing about, seed the human race with his DNA by impregnating women. Now, was he a pedophile or was he a rapist? Did he prefer children or did he prefer women? Most people will read this headline and won't even actually read the article. They'll read the headline and actually take this to be true. So this is, again, going back to engineering human consciousness and people lacking emotional and intellectual discernment when they see this stuff. People are being programmed without even really questioning things, without reading, without having any real intelligent discernment of their own to be able to see through what's actually being said. All right, so let me close these out. Where are we? How are we doing? Are we doing good on time? Well, how long have I been talking? 45 minutes. Okay, I'm right on time. So yesterday, I'm not going to get to the Melania Trump thing. That's fine. Actually, maybe I'll talk about it. Let me just talk about that real quick. There is an article in the Huffington Post. I'll talk about this really quickly. You can be anti-Trump without slut-shaming Melania, right? And it goes into, these articles about Melania, how she was dressed, the New York Post, how people talk about her and making her the butt of the jokes and all that type of stuff. I don't believe in, disrespect. We have a very anti-female culture in America and around the world. It's despicable. It's disgusting. Unfortunately, a lot of women are, equal participant and co-conspirators at this point to objectifying themselves. So that, there's really no one person or entity, male or female, to focus on. It's all of the culture at this point. So I'm not a, Melania fan. My whole thing with this is this idea that people are now embracing this concept of slut shaming just goes to show how ignorant this world is and how ignorant this culture is. The fact that the First Lady of the United States is actually being associated, regardless of whatever happened to her, with this title of slut shaming, which has been branded specifically by an airhead, Amber Rose, that people are actually identifying with this word and with this concept, just underscores the pure ignorance of this world and of this society. If you want to make a point about women and about respecting women and sexuality and whatnot, use high vibration language, use respectable language. The minute you say slut shaming, I don't care who's involved, my brain automatically shuts down. I cannot comprehend, and then misogyny, liberal or conservative misogyny is misogyny. And this is by Zeba Blay, who is actually a black woman, which makes it even worse. I mean, we're really owning these ignorant and deprecating this language is just, I do not understand it. And these women do not represent me. They do not speak for me. And, there is a better way for women to identify themselves and to highlight the ills of this culture than to identifying with this ignorant, low vibration language. That's the point I wanted to make about that. And I don't agree with, the sensationalization of, tearing a woman down because of stuff she did in her past or whatever. This country doesn't even have enough respect for itself, to be mindful of how it represents, the people that they've actually put into office. So that's the whole point I wanted to make about that. This idea of embracing this title of slut shaming is just ridiculous and retarded to me. And I do not understand it. And I will never be a part of that feminist culture, that all of the chaos that comes with that. It just does not represent me. It does not speak for me. And it's really unfortunate. So last but certainly not least, anybody who wants to make a donation to me, you can do so through Cash App, $ ZaZa Ali, capital Z A, capital Z A, capital A L I. You guys always ask, so donations can be sent that way. But I, of course, respect and appreciate you guys actually purchasing my work. As you can see, I do actually research. I do actually read this stuff so that I can come forward to give you guys information and make you interested in learning and make you interested in just, whatever is happening just beyond you scrolling through your timeline. So yesterday I played a couple of clips of Jay-Z. Everybody pretty much knows at this point what he said, what his position is. It's being reported now that he is about to be either a partial or a majority owner in the NFL, which, that's wonderful for him and his family and his legacy, and everybody who will benefit from that. That doesn't really take anything away from my perspective, and obviously everybody's like, oh, let's be patient, let's wait and see. I do give Jay-Z the benefit of the doubt. I do hope that somewhere along the line he has good intentions for black players in the NFL, as well as this social justice aspect of this. Still, I didn't get mad at Jay-Z for making a deal with the NFL. He's obviously a businessman. He has a right to use his money however he wants to. I don't understand why. Reading all these comments, and again, this social engineering. I saw a comment where a woman was like, oh, this is chess, not checkers. Everybody's saying that now, chess, not checkers. Why is everybody talking about $1 billion deals? You won't even be in those rooms. And why is everybody in his business? Nobody's talking about this because it's Jay-Z, just because it's Jay-Z, or just because Jay-Z's a billionaire, or just because Jay-Z made a deal, with a large corporate conglomerate. Most of the corporations in American culture are racist as hell. Built their success on the backs of either slavery or, poor people. There's always a story behind all of them. So the NFL is just one aspect of it. What I don't agree with, and what, y'all need to fall back on, is this idea that black people, especially in America, cannot have this conversation and cannot question his movements or question the decisions are being made, not because it's the NFL particularly, but because this whole deal is being branded under the guise of social justice, right? This meeting and this deal would not even be taking place if it was not for Kaepernick. There would be no reason for the NFL to come in and make a direct deal and make it so public and make such a big deal, a big issue about it, if it were not for them ostracizing and blacklisting Colin Kaepernick. So the fact that he was not an integral part of this decision and this deal. Now, people say, well, Jay-Z doesn't owe Colin Kaepernick anything. Jay-Z doesn't, it's not his responsibility. You're right. Jay-Z didn't owe Trayvon Martin or Khalif Browder anything anyway. But he has spearheaded himself as someone who is looking out for our culture. He has publicly supported Colin Kaepernick. So that specifically places him in a lane where people should question him. He's not above reproach. There's this celebrity worship culture where people, let me tell you, I had a situation with a guy. I've been commenting on different things, about this, putting my opinion up, always being balanced, because I'm rooting for Jay-Z, but I'm also rooting for Cap. I didn't like the interview process came off as slimy to me. Some of the stuff that Jay-Z said, it just came off as kind of slimy and greasy to me. I can say that, but still, respect Jay-Z, how he's moved and the things that he's done for the culture. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. You can go to my Facebook channel and my Instagram channel. You will see Jay-Z. If you scroll, you'll see him periodically on my channel. So I've been supporting him. I have mad love for him. I love, the family man aspect, what he's doing for the culture, the documentaries, the helping artists, all the stuff that he's done. Like, I've continuously publicly been supporting him. So this idea that because people criticize his movements, I think it was Faison Love that said, who made Jay-Z the savior, to where now, the whole culture has shifted on in a matter of days, from boycott the NFL is racist, the NFL is blacklisting boycotts, to now it's let's wait and see what Jay-Z does. Well, we have not seen anything significant happen in the past however many days since this happened for us to change the dynamic of where we were with the NFL. So Faison Love said, I'm pretty sure it was him, who said, who made Jay-Z the savior, to where now he just says one thing and everybody's supposed to automatically get in line. Now, that's not a indictment against Jay-Z, because obviously he's just moving how he moves. That's an indictment on y'all. That's an indictment on the consciousness. That's an indictment on the culture. What are we loyal to? Anybody that thinks that the NFL actually has an agenda to move our culture forward, or to change the dichotomy of police brutality, or to really, really help in a tangible way has no, listen, they say that their program, they allotted $89 million for, social justice programs, right? First of all, what does that mean? You can throw out any type, you can say anything. How do we know that's actually true? I used to teach at the Boys and Girls Club in West Oakland about 4 years ago. You know how they do the NBA Cares thing, right? So the NBA Cares came, it was during the playoffs, right? NBA Cares comes to West Oakland, Boys and Girls Club. They threw some paint up on the wall. They refurbished the basketball court. They put new computers in the teen room, right? Made some brief, surface updates, right? And then they left. Chris Paul came. They had this big media thing. He was there, and all the kids got a chance to talk to him. It was real kind of Hollywood, right? And not taking anything away from it, because they did more than a lot of people will do. So acknowledging the good of it, but also acknowledging there are kids that come to the Boys and Girls Club, especially during the summer, just to eat. So we're talking about painting walls and creating basketball courts for kids that are barely surviving, that come from traumatic experiences, drug-infested families. You know what I mean? Going to school hungry every day. So let's juxtapose what we're talking about here when corporations like the NBA and the NFL say we're going to do a social justice program. What does that mean? So to me, it would have been a lot more beneficial and easy to swallow this pill if there had been here's what the initiative is. Here's what we're actually going to do. And granted, Jay-Z and Meek Mill are working with Reform. At this point, all we've seen is pictures of them in the rooms with high-powered white dudes, you know what I'm saying, smiling and looking like everything is wonderful. And I do believe, I want to believe, and I hope, and I want for all of those things to be successful. But until that stuff starts trickling down to the ground, how did we pivot? Where did we, you know what I'm saying? This is a win for Jay-Z, absolutely. Is this a win for the culture? We don't know. Why y'all acting like this is a win for the culture? This is a win for Jay-Z. Colin Kaepernick still doesn't have a job. So, I want to read this post by Ness Nitty because I watched part of my son's video where he basically talked about the fact that Colin Kaepernick took a settlement. He got paid. He didn't disclose anything to everybody else. He took the money, he took the bag, etc., etc. I want to read what Ness Nitty, Colin's girlfriend, who I have a great deal of admiration for. She's a sharp cookie. Her response to, I don't think she was responding directly to him. I think she was responding to an NFL player who had made some comments in a interview or in an article on Above the Law. Is entitled "Colin Kaepernick Settled His Grievance. Jay-Z is Just Taking the Money." People who are comparing Kaepernick's settlement to Jay-Z's business deal need to step all the way back. And I'm going to read her response. It's pretty lengthy. Well, it's not that lengthy, but I think it's good to contextualize this from both perspectives. And obviously, Colin has a gag order because he did take the settlement, which was actually back pay. It was not hush money. It was back pay for, what his lack of income for those years. So let me read this real quick. She said, there seems to be, let me take some water. Hang on. I'm at 58 minutes. I'm almost on time, y'all. Okay. There seems to be some confusion about the difference between Colin Kaepernick settling his collusion grievance with the NFL before an arbitrator could rule on the merits, and Jay-Z allowing the NFL to paint itself in Hova face in exchange for some Super Bowl money. The mischaracterization seems to be Cap took the money and Jay-Z took the money, so it's all the same, and so now let's get ready for some football. Here's wide receiver Dez Bryant's stumbling into the conclusion. Thinking that way is not this is the football player Dez Bryant. Here's wide receiver Dez Bryant stumbling into the confusion. So this article is about what Dez Bryant said. Thinking that way is not Dez's fault. He went to school to learn how to catch footballs. I went to school to learn how to debate the definition of a catch into absurdist obfuscation. I got you, Mr. That's an intellectual slap down. I got you, Mr. Bryant. Simply put, the colloquial understanding of settlement has no place in the law. Many aspects of the legal system are designed specifically to encourage legal settlements. A legal settlement is not an admission of defeat. It's not selling out. It's just the outcome the system is designed to produce. And of all those designs, none work as well as forced arbitration. Forced arbitration is entirely about making people settle their grievances before an arbitrator makes an all or nothing ruling. It's that forced arbitration process that Kaepernick's collusion grievance was subjected to. Let's start with the obvious. Kaepernick accused all 32 NFL teams of colluding to keep him out of the league. However, in order to sue the NFL for collusion, the only thing Kaepernick could legally do was file a grievance and subject himself to arbitration. That was the only process available because that's what is laid out in the collective bargaining agreement between the NFL and the NFL Players Association. A football player cannot just sue the NFL in civil court without first going through this process. That's just how the law works. Kaepernick didn't give up his right to sue the NFL. The Players Association gave up that right for him, and there was absolutely nothing he could reasonably do about it. Kaepernick filed his grievance under the terms of the NFL collective bargaining agreement, and that meant his case would be heard by an arbitrator. And then you can go on to see the comments. Just people don't even listen. People don't even read. She broke down this whole thing, and then people turned around and made comments or said things that she either explained or that didn't have absolutely anything with the point that she was trying to make. That's the beauty and the curse of social media. But again, so to the point about the money situation. And then, this is an example that I gave I did a YouTube live yesterday after my video cut off I did an Instagram live after my video cut off on YouTube. Just to juxtapose this, right? You guys remember Sister Soldier. Some of you guys do. If you are paying attention to the culture, if you pay attention to history, then you should remember Sister Soldier. There was a time when there was a very big backlash against her because she was so vocal about the injustices that were happening in our community. And Bill Clinton, she kind of called him out. I can't remember all the circumstances of it, but it was pertaining to Bill Clinton. I think there was an election or something specific was happening. And a lot of people in the community that said they had her back turned their backs against her. she went through hell. Publicly, they basically lynched her. Very outspoken, revolutionary sister who's a writer. And you should definitely be, reading her books, which are phenomenal. But imagine at that point in time where I was in that, pro-black revolutionary lane, which I'm not anymore. I'm always going to be pro-black. I'm always going to work to edify the consciousness of our people. But I am much more focused on spirituality and God consciousness than I am about race or racism, etc. Don't knock anybody for doing that, but that's just my lane and where I'm at right now. But imagine 5 years ago when I was in that space, and this is happening to Sister Soldier at the same time. Barnes and Nobles, and think no social media, right? Barnes and Nobles totally alienates her from being able to promote her work. All of the major bookstores blacklist her, so she can't sell her books. She can't really move. She can't really make money to feed her family, right? Barnes and Nobles hits me up and says, hey, ZaZa, you put your Black Matters out. We want to promote you. We want to bring you in. So, and obviously their agenda is to, cover the black eye of their reputation from what's happened between her, right? Imagine me sitting down at the table with Barnes and Noble, and I'm not even factoring in how much money I have. If I have more money, that makes it even worse. Because when you don't have any money, it's like, bruh, I'm trying to get on. You know what I'm saying? I got to feed my family, so I know this might hurt her, but I really got to feed my family, so I got to make this move, and we'll figure it out later. But if I got major money, the bag's not an issue, because that's what everybody's talking about. He's going after the bag, but he's worth $1 billion. Clearly now we see that this is bigger, that, Jay-Z is moving towards purchasing a team. But I'm talking about the social justice aspect and how Colin Kaepernick is aligned with all of this. Because according to Sean King, Cap and Jay-Z have been talking consistently over the course of the last year, and that he had absolutely no idea that Jay-Z was about to make this move. So I sit down at the table and publicly tell the world and tell my people that I have made an agreement with Barnes and Nobles, irregardless of how they're blacklisting Sister Soldier, irregardless of how they've, done her, treated her, limited her ability to make money, limited her ability to do what she loves, which is writing. And that's the other thing, football is his skill. That's his talent. That's the thing that he was given to give to the world. So, of course, he's going to want to play on the highest stage. For the people that are like, oh, well, he still wants to play for the NFL, so why is the NFL the problem if he still wants to play for them anyway? He should have the right to exhibit his skill at the highest capacity. He's a professional athlete. Who would he play for if he doesn't play for the NFL? Arena football? So I sit down and, saying basically, and people are like, well, what about Sister Soldier? Oh, well, that's not my problem. I'm not her boss. Huh? To me, and if Jay-Z becomes an NFL owner and hires Colin Kaepernick, then cool. And I find it interesting, right? Don't underestimate the fact that if you buy into an NFL partnership, there is a very strenuous scrutinizing of your life, your money, your finances, your background. Jay-Z is a former drug dealer. So you can do business with a former drug dealer, and no disrespect, you know what I'm saying, because we got past. You can do business with a former drug dealer, but you can't. Cap's a problem. Does that make sense to y'all? And again, the NFL does not need Jay-Z in as far as the ownership aspect of this. The NFL has not been taking a significant financial loss as far as the Colin Kaepernick boycott, contrary to popular belief. They are doing very well. They have not seen major dips in the economics, maybe the viewership, but the NFL is doing very well financially. So for me, I would have respected something that went to the effect of, I don't have any control over the NFL and who hires Colin Kaepernick. And remember, the owners can do what they want to do. The dude who runs the NFL and how the NFL, conceptualizes this versus one random or individual owner hiring him, those are two separate entities. And then, the boys club, they decide together, but then they decide separately. I don't know what's going to happen with Colin Kaepernick and his being able to play football again. But I want the world to know that I support him. I want the world to know that that's my brother. I want the world to go to his website, Your Rights Campaign, and make a donation and support him. I am also going to make a donation in support of him and the work that he does in our communities. And I also want it on the record that I believe that Colin Kaepernick is a great football player and that he should be playing in the league. That's boss. That's respectable. You got all this confusion and everybody's like, oh, we shouldn't be fighting each other. And everybody's blaming each other for fighting each other and not blaming the person that we claim has all the power, who could have said, just with words, expressed these sentiments, expressed a deep level of support, expressed an opinion that would quell all this energy. That could have been done in the conference, in the video conference, in the interview. It wasn't done, and this is the fallout. So to people who say, oh, well, this is not you speaking on billion-dollar issues, this is our culture. This Colin Kaepernick is our modern-day Muhammad Ali. We've been watching black men get murdered on film over and over and over and over again. I'm putting my video back on. My frequency video. We've been watching our, Colin has been, Cap has been an intimate, integral part of our culture. These are historical icons. If this didn't have anything to do with social justice, if Colin Kaepernick was not directly included in this, I don't give a damn what Jay-Z does with his money. Will it make me look at him different? Of course. He's made moves before that made me look at him sideways. That doesn't mean I can't love him. That doesn't mean I can't respect him. This dude on my Instagram page, somebody who follows me, who I communicate with all the time, I guess he was watching my comments on other people's things. So when Charlemagne posted the video of Jay-Z the full response to Jay-Z, where he was, giving a more well-rounded response. This dude tags me and Sean King and Jamel Hill and somebody else and basically was like, yeah, y'all clowns running off at the mouth. You don't even really know what's going on. Bruh, you have absolutely no connection to Jay-Z. Jay-Z don't even have a social media page to interact with you. He rarely does interviews. You have absolutely no connection to him. You can DM me and have a conversation with me. You can get me on the phone if you really wanted to. So you've just forfeited your relationship with somebody that actually means you well. That you can actually reach out and touch indirectly. For somebody that don't give a damn about you, that wouldn't know you from a needle in a haystack. Social engineering. I don't know when we got to this point where we couldn't have intelligent conversations, agree on certain things, disagree on certain things. Like, people are really like, you're either pro or con. I'm not either. I'm looking at the situation. I thought the interview was slimy and greasy and corporate. That's not the same energy that I saw on Tidal when Jay-Z was talking about families and black men and recognizing and acknowledging his mistakes in his marriage and et cetera, et cetera. That's not the same Jay-Z that I saw talking about Khalif Browder and Trayvon Martin. That was a suit and tie. You know what I'm saying? With a nappy fro. And again, he can do what he wants to do, but why am I talking about this? Because this is my history. This is my culture. I have a platform, and people need to be able to look at this stuff and hear balanced perspectives so they don't get caught up in having to choose a side. I don't have a stake in this fight. I'm not expecting Jay-Z to change my community. Jay-Z does not have a cross-like position in my frame of mind where I feel like it's all on him. I have just as big a responsibility as Jay-Z does in my mind. But he's not. Only thing he has that I don't have is money and fame. My mind has more value than all of that. So your responsibility, you have a mind, you have a brain. What are you bringing to the table? Like, people always say, well, people want to talk about what Jay-Z's doing. What are you doing? Well, you ask yourself that question. If you've wrote that on somebody's post on social media, on YouTube in the past week, in lieu of this situation, then you ask yourself that and tell us in the comments. What are you actually doing? This is our history. This is our culture. This is a moment in time for us as a people. And Colin Kaepernick is a cultural icon. And like Sean King said, he should be protected. He should be considered in these type of deals. He should be considered in these conversations. The NFL would not be sitting down with Jay-Z having a conversation about making a partnership in order to, of course, do the entertainment aspect, but also, why would they even include social justice in the conversation? Why even include it? Because they're trying to fix their reputation, because they're trying to change the trajectory of the conversation around the NFL and black players, because most of their players are black. That's why I get to talk about this. That's why I have a perspective about it that matters. Not because I can't sit in a room and talk about billion-dollar deals. That shit don't mean nothing to me. This is our culture. These are our athletes. This is our history. This is our legacy. Colin Kaepernick is a symbol, not to mention him putting up his money, not to mention him going out in communities and benefiting the people and teaching young brothers about social justice, not to mention him continuously highlighting Malcolm X, all of that, putting himself on the line. All the bullshit that came with what he's gone through. He deserved better than that. That's my point. And stop trying to use, and this is not just about Jay-Z in particular, this is about this monetizing social justice, monetizing black issues. That's what this is. I would have respected it much more if it was just been, hey, I made a deal with him. I'm going to work with Cap in some other capacity in order to help him in his organization. This is purely a business deal. Once you start adding social justice, we're going to do things in the community into the fold, then clearly this is not about just, you know, the business relationship. This is about, we made a mistake. Black people are mad. Here's what we're going to do to clean it up. And then they didn't even tell you what they're going to do to clean it up. And you're actually sitting back talking about wait to see what Jay-Z's going to do. No. Don't wait to see what Jay-Z's going to do. Figure out what you're going to do. Why are we waiting on celebrities to do anything for us as a people? To whom much is given, much is expected. I get that. Do I think celebrities have a higher accountability and responsibility to our people because of our fame, because of their fame, because of our attention on them? I do. Do I expect a lot from them? I don't. So anything that they do is a win. But anything that you do is a win too. Somebody asked me in the Instagram live, why would if somebody sued you and you won the settlement and then wanted their job back, would you hire them back? I don't know if Colin Kaepernick won the settlement per se, because he still doesn't have a job, number one. And as Nessa talked about, you know, he basically had to take the outcome of what transpired. I don't know if we would consider that a win, but it depends on the circumstances, right? You have a league full of black players who are the best athletes in the world, particularly when it comes to, you know, football. Colin Kaepernick's jersey with Nike sold out in the blink of an eye. He's obviously still a formidable economic asset, right? He's very popular. He's a good player. He's probably better than most of the second and third string quarterbacks that are in the league. And don't you kind of want this to go away? Don't you kind of want this whole thing to stop? Of course you do. That's why you hired Jay-Z. You know what I'm saying? So I get the question. But in the bigger scheme of things, if they hadn't done what they did to Cap, it never would have went to a stage where they where he had to file that grievance against them in the first place. So it's a matter of righting the wrong, not swallowing your pride and doing something for somebody who hurt you or doing something for somebody who did you wrong. No, you're righting a wrong. And the fact that these men won't right the wrong speaks volumes. If you actually have a social justice agenda with Jay-Z and you won't hire the person that represents social justice, the face of our time, that goes to tell you and to validate and to verify what the actual agenda is and what it's not. I hope the best for Jay-Z. I'm rooting for Jay-Z. I'm rooting for Cap for sure. But, you know, I don't think that was a good look. And Van Lathan made a very good video, which is on Instagram, where he's very balanced about it. You know, we don't have to pick a side. We don't have to, well, actually, you know, I understand picking a side. I can't say I'm on either side. I'm on the side of truth and I'm on the side of righteousness. So that's my perspective about it. And, you know, congratulations to Jay-Z if he is actually becoming an owner. You know, there's going to be a higher level of guidelines for him to follow if that actually happens. So we'll see, you know, the scope of how much power he'll have. And in a perfect world, he'll hire Colin Kaepernick and this whole thing will die down and all the people who think they know everything online will say, I told you so. And we'll scream and yell at the people who didn't agree. And then we'll all go back to our respective corners and continue to live our lives. It does not affect the daily lives of any of us in any real capacity. So the fact that people are so in their feelings and drawing a line in the sand and counting other people's money is corny to me. But here I am expressing my opinion because that's what I do. So ZaZaAli.com is my website. Make sure you guys support my books. Make sure you support my workbook. I have ebooks for sale on my site. You can make a donation. I'll put that information in the description below. Every Friday, I'm going to come and have intellectual, spiritual, you know, trending topics to sort of elevate the consciousness, elevate the conversation. And one day I look forward to Diddy calling me with a position on Revolt TV. No, I'm just playing. I'm not, but I am. So much love to you guys. I hope you have enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm going to try to get that toxic femininity video. I'm working on that, as well as the ebook that's going to accompany that. I'm going to try to get that up tomorrow if all goes well. You see my voice is kind of sparring from talking so much with clients and then with you guys. And if you want to work with me on a one-on-one capacity, you can hit my website as well. All right. Peace and love.